Okay, good morning. It is May 22nd, 2025. This is Debbie Davis. Okay, I said I would do videos daily. Okay, yeah, clearly I'm in danger. You know, so, like the people that, so I just saw a video on Stephen Gardner's channel talking about Elon Musk, how he's so frustrated that all of his Tesla, he got attacked so badly. Um, this is what I'm trying to say. It's the CIA attacking him. It's the deep state side of the CIA. John McCain was the secret kingpin. We've been under CIA control since 1963. Actually, even before that, when the National Securities Act was signed in 1947, that put us in some kind of state of national emergency, and then they put the CIA as the agency in charge of all the other agencies, and so we've been under control by the CIA since then. All these Dodge Chargers that are driving around, these are all CIA, and they're the deep state side of the CIA. The CIA, the real CIA, I've never met a real CIA agent. They're so covert, most of them, but the real CIA is supposed to protect was originally set up to protect issues of national security. And so if there's some kind of national security threat, then they have access to satellites and different things like that. But they've completely abused their powers, like the police are. Okay, that's what that's why I do these videos about the police. There's just a level of abuse of power going on. Excuse me. That has to be addressed. I don't blame Elon Musk for being upset. Of course, he's doing the right thing. Of course, he felt like it was his. Are you kidding me? We have to audit our own government. Our own government is the deep state. It is the CIA. So what he has to understand, and what everybody has to understand, is that I've been trying to explain, now that I figured this out, since they've been after me for 13 years, because I uncovered one of the the heads of the snake in Arizona with John McCain there at that base in Phoenix. It's literally, like I've said, I have no, I don't, I've had so many attempts on my life that I lost track. Okay, it's unbelievable that I'm even alive. This is the most dangerous agency that on the planet. Okay, but it goes. But I know how crazy I sound sometimes, so I want to explain some things, because I do know that this is hard for people to understand. But you can look up the National Securities Act of 1947. Okay, and I've talked about this. The murder of JFK, the government is still lying about that. They're never going to address and take accountability for anything, and there's never going to be a real court and a real tribunal until the CIA is dealt with. Because the 1960, I've talked about this. Okay, and then so the National Securities Act was signed in 1947, and so that is, what was that? I'll just read it. And I have more to explain. I've been reading this amazing book called Guardians of the Grail, and I've been learning some things from that too. Okay, so the National Security Act of 1947 was a law passed by U.S. Congress that reorganized the nation's military and intelligence agencies following World War II. Oh yeah, reorganization is a good way to put. There's a takeover. Okay. Oh yeah, we're gonna just reorganize. What does that mean exactly? That means the CIA took over. Okay, it led to the creation of the Department of Defense, National Security Council, Central Intelligence Agency, and the United States Air Force. The act was signed into law by President Truman on July 26, 1947. Okay, so at that point, that's when the deep state was started. Okay, and it includes the DOD, unfortunately, the National Security Council, Central Intelligence Agency, and sections of the Air Force. Okay, and I've known this because I've seen that chart. I've shown that chart of the targeted individual list, and Shriver Air Force Base is on that chart. So I've talked about this chart. Okay. I've talked about this chart. Shriver Air Force Base was on there. Okay, you can barely see it, but the Shriver Air Force Base. Shriver Air Force Base. Okay, it's right here on the chart. So right there, it says Shriver Air Force Base. Okay, they're deep state. Okay. I've been putting these pieces together for years. Okay, I'm just gonna have to call that person back. But okay, so and then okay, so and then it also goes back to okay, so when we invaded, you know. Wasn't like we were invading Germany, but we were helping, right? We went into Germany in the 1940s, but there's apparently more that went on there. You know how there's stories of how when we went into Iraq, our government went in and stole a bunch of stuff from the Baghdad Museum, and President Trump had to get those artifacts back to the Iraqis. Okay, apparently there was the same type of thing happening in the 1940s. So okay, so I'm going to talk some history here. So I'm reading this book, and I'm learning a lot from this book. Okay, this is books that my friend John's parents had. My friend John's parents were very strong Christians, and they had some of these books that are really amazing. And and you know, these Christian authors that were trying to warn us of these things. So I'm reading this book, and okay, so on the afternoon of April 30th, 1945, a party of American soldiers were searching out the area. They found a wide tunnel. This was in Germany. It was not long until the United States of America became the new owners of the Spear of Destiny. So there's a Spear of Destiny, and it's called either the Spear of Destiny or the Spear of Longinus, and it was apparently the sword that was used to puncture the side of Jesus. Okay, apparently they say it has some kind of powers. Okay, I don't know if the Spear of Destiny is different than the Spear of Longinus. Okay, I think they're two different swords, possibly. But it's a picture of the sword in Austria. Okay, so then it says that we somehow became the owners of the Spear of Destiny in America. Okay. Apparently, apparently the sword was left behind in Germany, and American people got the sword, you know. Or was it a handover? Or was it a handover of some kind? Really, United States possessed at that point the legendary Spear of Destiny. And then within months, the most hideous monster of destructive power ever imagined happened. The atomic bomb. We became possessors of the Spear of Destiny just a few months prior, apparently. General Patton was the only one who appeared to be totally fascinated at the sight of the Spear of Destiny. General Patton was a good general. He was, he had all good intentions. Some of the other people didn't understand what exactly. So it's so much of a spiritual battle. We've never addressed the spiritual aspect of this and the history, the real history of these wars. Okay, this Spear of Destiny has gone back for centuries, and whoever had the power and control at the time, a lot of times it's either in the hands of good or bad, it seems like to me. And I don't know if there's two different things. They talk about a Spear of Longinus and a Spear of Destiny. Okay, it's in this book. So I'm going to talk more about this book, but so literally Adolf Hitler had the Spear of Destiny in his control when he was in power. Or it's the Spear of Longinus, maybe. They don't specify. I think there's two different spears. Okay. He gave himself that day to the spiritual hierarchies of darkness. He yielded himself to become the vessel of the spirit of the Antichrist. Adolf Hitler rose to power in 1933. It had to do with him gaining access to some of these artifacts. Okay, and so there's a lot of history here that we haven't talked about. Okay, but I want to I want to explain more of what I was talking about the other day regarding these because I know how crazy this sounds. I mean, believe me, okay. I was like, you got to explain yourself more, otherwise this sounds crazy. Okay, so this is a picture I took. I'm talking about these when I was talking about the stranger in the Pentagon and these different things like that. I sometimes go to Minnesota MUFON, and sometimes it's just because I've had unusual experiences really my whole life. And I've met there used to be like a group of about 100 people that went to these, and we would have sometimes really interesting speakers, and we would all go out to eat. It was more of like a social thing. Okay, there are genuine, really cool people that are open-minded to this type of thing, and then there's of course the dark side of this whole UFO movement. Okay, I'm not on the dark side of that. This was a picture that I took in the sky above Minneapolis on May 3rd. Okay, May 3rd, right? It was driving on 35W here. Okay, so and that to me looks like UFOs in the cloaked in the clouds. Okay, and then my friend Pete said, "Oh my God, that looks just like a picture that I have from Mount Shasta." So he used to live in the Washington State, my friend Pete, Mount Shasta area, and this was a picture that he took that looks just like UFOs in the sky, cloaked in the sky. Okay, similar, right? And so so he shows me that. And then so the speaker at the Minnesota MUFON was a guy named Kevin Briggs, and he's telling his story of that he's been contacted by these beings ever since he was like 3, and he's just showing some different things. So they appear to him in rainbows. If you saw the video that I did called "The Miracles That Have Happened to Me," you can look up that video that I've done. They've shown me rainbows as well. Like when I've asked for a sign, I'll have like a huge rainbow that appears. In Idaho, I had the hugest rainbow appear that I've ever seen. It was over the entire city when I asked for a sign from God. And it was a double rainbow, and I've never seen a double rainbow. And there's like a spiritual meaning to a double rainbow. And so I'm watching this guy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he has the same type of things happening. And then he saw he's seen this ship in the sky. Okay, that's the same ship I saw about 3 weeks ago over Minneapolis. It looked like a cigar type shape. It wasn't, that's exactly what I saw. Okay, so this is from the MUFON, Minnesota MUFON. He was the presenter, and he said that's how they've appeared to him. They're blonde, and they go by the name Ort and D, male and female, and they're blondes. They say I guess they're Pleiadians, is what they call themselves. And I believe that they've been assisting us throughout the centuries, on and off. So I just wanted to explain myself more. This guy has also had experiences, and I saw this same thing that he saw, and he's in Florida. So him and I have talked since he presented, and we've shared some information together, and we both had similar experiences. Okay, so I just want to explain that a little bit more so it doesn't sound so crazy. And then, of course, there was that book by Valiant Thor called Stranger in the Pentagon, and you can read that, and they're positive. They're here. I mean, they look just like us. They're not like alien looking people. They look very human, and apparently there's been this type of contact for years. Okay, so I just want to explain it a little bit more. How he's got some the pictures that I took right from my phone, and other people have taken, that literally look like ships in the clouds, cloaked in the clouds. So it doesn't sound so crazy. But I mean, it should be a positive thing, because they're not here for any kind of malevolent purposes. They're here to assist. So it should be a positive thing, and they have apparently been here before. Like I said, Valiant Thor, and apparently prior to that too. So I just want to explain a little bit more about that type of thing. But there's so much more in this book that is more of it's just something that that's never been addressed about our history, and the spiritual side of this of this battle. And so and what the Catholic Church has covered up for years, the Roman Catholics. Okay, we haven't been taught the truth. Okay, and we definitely haven't been taught the truth about Mary Magdalene. Okay, I mean, there's absolutely no evidence to prove at all that she was some kind of a whore or harlot or whatever. I mean, there's absolutely no evidence of that. And so it's like some kind of lie that's gone down in history, where we've just believed it. There's absolutely no evidence to prove any of that. So we've been told a bunch of lies about Mary Magdalene. I've talked about this, when I did a whole video about how the Statue of Liberty represents Mary Magdalene. I showed the different the symbol that she's when she's holding the book there. That's a symbol of Mary Magdalene in her hands. And the Notre Dame was built after Mary Magdalene. Okay, Mary Magdalene was a very influential woman, and she wasn't a harlot. She wasn't some kind of a prostitute. She was one of the disciples, and she was the closest to Jesus. So it's like a level of jealousy, or trying to suppress information about her, suppress women. It's like that kind of spirit. And so as I'm reading through this, I'm like, it's all about her. It's all about her, and them wanting to suppress information about her. So I'm going to talk more about this book, but I just wanted to do this video today.